What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about my early impressions on TRON Catalyst. I do want to thank Big Fan Games for giving me a key for this game. Got it on Steam, so that's the footage you're going to be seeing here. And look, my experience with TRON, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, largely is Kingdom Hearts, okay? And I think actually there's more people that could relate to that than you might think. Hopefully, you guys can let me know in the comments if you grew up primarily with TRON appearing in your video games through Sora and Gang in Kingdom Hearts. Look, I mean, I highly respect the universe. I think, visually it pops, and, there's a lot of potential that, they've taken advantage of in a lot of different mediums, for this game. Now, this studio and, the kind of creators behind this, remember, there was a Tron game a couple years back. Now, I never played that, all right? So I got to level with you. I'm going into this game fresh. I know what these type of games are. I know what that first game was. I know what this game was going into it, and I'm actually having a lot of fun. It does have some pitfalls, and I think the best way of explaining those is think the mid to late 2000s, just some kind of design choices in games that you would say, okay, nowadays you could kind of improve it and just be better at it. Now, some of those things kind of appear here, but what's the general idea, okay? There's this loop, and this loop, I think, is a really, really clever idea of, okay, we have roguelike games, right? You think about a Hades or something like that, and, you're going through and you're kind of picking up something, right, from one round to the next round, okay? With this, I really like it because it's a lot of almost simplistic building. You can do things, you can do activities, you can do missions, and sometimes the game will actually force you to restart kind of the encounter, the overall level. So, this can happen if you attack the wrong people and you alert the entire city. You're eventually going to get to the point with missions that you're not going to be able to continue because they're hunting you, right? And there's no way of lowering that alert. So literally you have to restart. Now, restarting is not all that bad of a thing. And number one, it's a cool premise. And number two, you don't lose almost anything, right? So much of the data that you're picking up or all of these objectives that you're doing, they'll stay with you and you'll be able to use them on the next run. So it does lack the complexity of a Hades or, something like that where you're almost taking in knowledge in your head. I mean, you kind of know where to go and stuff, but generally it's a story mechanic, okay? So far, story is pretty cool. I won't give anything away. One thing I will say without spoiling it, the very, very beginning of the game reminds me of a 2009 anti-hero game, let's just say, the opening of that. Really interesting, how it's almost one-to-one. But I know, I really respect it. I think it's really, really cool. I think the story is good. Characters so far are pretty good. Now, most of them, I will say, there's one in particular that I'm not a huge fan of, the voice. I will say, sometimes the voice work, it's these images, right? I'm sure I'll be showing it as well, but it's these images that pop up, and I think the art's good. Art looks good. The world looks good. We'll talk about that in a second, but, when they're talking, I think sometimes when they're longer conversations, if it's multi-sentences, okay, it can really sound, at least to me, like they're just reading it off a script. I'm no voice actor. I'm not going to pretend to be one, but I think when it's kind of short and snappy, they're just saying one or two lines, it sounds more organic. But when they're reading 3, 4, 5 lines, in a row, it starts to sound more, especially the pauses that occur. You can kind of skip to make them go faster. But when you're just kind of organically listening to them talk, because there's pauses in between, it really sounds like it's two people not together in different rooms just reading off a script, and there's nothing behind it. So I'm not going to say that's great. It's serviceable. It does what it needs to do. Story is interesting enough so far that makes you want to go through it. Again, I think the main grab to this game, well, a couple main grabs. Number one, it's in the Tron universe. I think they do the music in terms of just the sound design there, the visuals, super cool, kind of top down. Whether you're fighting, whether you're on the motorcycle, just really pretty. Honestly, really, really nice to look at. The combat is very, I don't even know the best way of describing it, but very snappy. Maybe that's the right word. It's simplistic, and there, at least where I'm at, there's not that much to upgrade. So I don't know, I might be further along than I think I am. I've played it about 2.5-ish hours, and for me, I think I've unlocked a third of the achievements, and I think they did an interview a while ago, and they said it's around a 7-hour game. I don't know if I'm going to take 7. At my current pace, I feel like I'm closer closer like to the middle than I think I am. And again, the reason I say all that, like you look at the ability tree and how you can kind of get better, and there's not that much of a jump from like when you're fighting in the beginning of the game to when you're fighting middle or end. At least I'm assuming that. When it comes to the fighting though, it's simplistic, but honestly it's actually really fun. It's got that snappiness. It's got the general like, okay, roll, right? Roll to dodge. There's the parrying system. I think the parrying system is super cool. In this game, if you parry one, you'll kind of do like this massive strike that's very powerful, so you kind of want to parry, but you can actually attack multiple enemies. So if one enemy is attacking you, I almost time it and I almost place it so that my parrying attack back is going to hit. I've destroyed 3 enemies with a parry on one. So like that's kind of like the gaminess that you can do in this, and it's super cool. Like I don't know, it is very snappy. It's very responsive. It's very simple. Like it's just a basic attack. You can throw. There's like a long range type thing. There's dodging and there's parrying. That's pretty much it. But it holds itself together rather well. At least where I'm at, a couple different enemies. I think 3 or 4 different types of enemies. I don't know if that'll expand, or I hope it does. But I mean, even if it's just those 3 or 4, they have levels, so they kind of get more powerful, as the game goes. So there's challenge. I mean, they throw an okay amount of them at you. They deal a lot of damage. There's difficulty modes and whatnot in this game as well. The one combat negative, because I don't really think like the simplistic design of like the moves and stuff, I don't really think that's all that much of a negative. The one negative I would say that I was mentioning earlier, like the mid to late 2000s, kind of just like odd design choice, is the enemies that come back. So like this is a game, 2 things happen that doesn't really make me feel very great. Number one is anytime you're really in an area, an enclosed area I should say, the doors will lock when an enemy attacks you. So if you get spotted and enemies rush at you, you can't just escape. You can if you're out in the open. All right, you can use your motorcycle, you can do whatever you want, you just run. But if you're in like an enclosed, like with doors, they'll light up blue when they open, and they'll light up like, they'll have like a red kind of or orangish kind of color that'll be blocked off, okay, when you're in an actual battle. So you can't really like handle things exactly how you want to handle them. And you could say, okay, well, why would you want to avoid a fight? Most times you don't. Most first times you don't. The issue that this game has, again, that's that early kind of design choice, is that the enemies will reappear. So you could say you're in a building, you go on an elevator, you wipe out the first floor, okay? You go on an elevator to the 5th floor, you come back down, the enemies will be back. So it's really the marriage of those 2 things. It's not that big of a deal that like the doors lock and you can't exit an area until you fight. That's you think about a lot of games back in the day, many, and even now, many games will lock you in an area until you take out the enemies. But when you combine that with the fact that, okay, you could clear out an area, walk 20 feet to your right, come back, the enemies will be back, and you have to do it again because of part A, right? Because the doors lock and because the enemies are back, that's part B, you're stuck again. So that is a really, and that does get annoying. It really does, because there's some areas where you will do this over and over and over. There's a lot of backtracking, and because there's backtracking means the enemies are going to repeat. Plus the game, I did get stuck once. I literally got stuck in a corner and enemies were attacking me. I destroyed them, but I literally could not move. I was stuck. And so that repeating strategy, or the basic mechanic of this game, I actually had to repeat the day, which normally not a big deal, but in this case, the game got me stuck in a corner. So that was one, not like a game breaking thing, but it did break the game. I did have to restart the day and then to fix the issue. But I'm having fun. I think everything in this game is really, I don't even want to say serviceable. I think most things are far better than serviceable. I think the world is very powerful. Again, I like just visually looking at it. I like being called program. They say that everybody calls each other it too. But just honestly, like that terminology. And again, that's why growing up Kingdom Hearts with them in that as well, or Tron in it. Just the way they kind of talk to each other, right? And the way visually they look and the way they kind of see their world. You know what I mean? Like having their own kind of mythology, or they have their own like kind of religion type thing, going on there. And it's like, it's just an interesting world that Tron has always been, and to see it, we don't see it all that much in video games, like almost not at all. And this is not, this isn't a AAA open world 50-hour, thing. It doesn't need to be, but we don't get those type of games. We get games like this, and I think you can appreciate, or I can appreciate Tron through something like this. So I'm happy it was made. I'm looking forward to continuing the game. It's $25 $25. Again, it's probably at the pace I'm going, it's probably not 7 hours. It's probably somewhere in like the 5 to 6 hour range. So that's something you'll have to wrestle with. I know the last game did extremely well, for the types of games that this is. It's not selling, 5, 10, 15 million units, but it did quite well and it did enough to do this. So I think the people that are going to be interested, I don't think this is a game that would scare you off in any way. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.